Good evening to everybody. In today's class of environment and ecology, we will discuss the forest ecosystem. So after the completion of this lecture, you would be able to answer the questions such as what do we mean by the forest? What is the definition of forest? What are the various types of forest? And what is the difference between the taiga forest, temperate forest, and tropical forest? What is the primary forest, secondary forest? What do we mean by the degraded forests? And what is deforestation, afforestation, and what do we mean by the social forestry? Right. So these are the various topics which we will cover in our today's lecture. Okay, so uh, because forest ecosystem is one of the terrestrial ecosystems, so that is why we will first start with the terrestrial ecosystem. That what do we mean by the terrestrial ecosystem? What are the various types of terrestrial ecosystems? And then we will move further on the forest ecosystem, right? So the first subtopic of today's lecture, that is the terrestrial ecosystem. So in this, first of all, we need to know about the terrestrial. Terrestrial means related to the land, right? Terrestrial means related to land. And as far as the ecosystem is concerned, by ecosystem, we mean by ecosystem, we mean a geographical area, geographical area where the various biotic and abiotic factors interact, where the various biotic and abiotic factors interact, right? And provide conditions for the for sustaining the life and provide conditions for sustaining life. So that is known as an ecosystem, right? So as far as the terrestrial ecosystem is concerned, so we can say terrestrial ecosystem means the interaction between, interaction between various living organisms, and non-living objects of the land create a terrestrial ecosystem. Create a terrestrial ecosystem. Okay, so this is what we mean by the terrestrial ecosystem, right? So basically, we can say that terrestrial ecosystems are the ecosystems of land, right? So only 20 only about 28% of Earth's ecosystem, only about 28% of Earth's surface belongs to the terrestrial ecosystems. Belong to the terrestrial ecosystems, right? So this is there. Okay, so there are three types of terrestrial ecosystems. There are three types of terrestrial ecosystems which we will study in the class. Three types of terrestrial ecosystems. right? Those we can say three types of terrestrial ecosystems include one is the forest ecosystem, forest ecosystem. Second is the grassland ecosystem, and third is the desert ecosystem. These are the three important terrestrial ecosystems: grassland ecosystem, and third one is we can say the that is the desert ecosystem, right? That is the desert ecosystem. So these are the three important terrestrial ecosystems, right? So I think there will be no problem as far as this slide is concerned, right? You may be getting me properly, right? So now the next important point which is there. Now we move on the forest ecosystem, right? Forest ecosystem. Forest ecosystem. So ecosystem, you already know that what do we mean by the ecosystem? The only important thing here is to know about the forests, that what do we mean by the forest, right? So first of all, it is important to know the definition of a forest, or what do we mean by the forest, right? So we will discuss here two important definitions of forest. One definition of forest has been given by United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, UNFAO's definition of the forest, right? So according to the UNFAO, what is forest? We can say forest is a land, right? Forest is a land spanning spanning more than more than 0.5 hectares with trees higher than 5 meters and a canopy cover more than 10% and a canopy cover more than 10%, right? So this is the important definition which has been given by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, right? So according to this definition, there are three important points we can say in this definition, right? There are three main points, right? Main points to define whether an ecosystem is a forest or something else, right? So one of the main points which is given here, that is we can say the land cover, right? Land cover. As far as the land cover is concerned, minimum land cover should be 0.5 hectares, right, of area. And the second is the uh, tree height, we can say. Second important factor is the tree height, right? Tree height means more than 5 meters, right? Tree height should be there. And the third important thing is that is the canopy cover, right? So canopy cover means it should be more than 10% of canopy cover should be there, right? So more than this, right? So this is what we mean by these are the three important points while defining the forest according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, right? So now let me explain that what do we mean by the canopy cover, because some of the students may having doubt about this canopy cover, that what is the canopy cover, how can we define the canopy cover, right? So let me take that. Let's suppose this is a tree, right? This is a tree, right? And this is the canopy of this tree, we can say. This is the canopy of this tree. Similarly, here is also a tree, right? So this is also the canopy of this tree, we can say. This is this. And here is another tree. And this is the canopy of this particular tree, we can see, right? And now we can say, we will see the total area of this box, right? Let's suppose total area in this box is, we can say, 100 units, right? And the area covered by the canopy. This, right? Means A plus B plus C, right? Let me give it the, you can say it A, right? This is B3, this is C3, we can see, right? So the area of A plus B plus C, right? The area covered by the canopies, right? Area covered by the canopies. So the ratio of these two, right? So that means the area covered by the canopy, right? And divided by the 100 units, right? Means the total area, right, of the land multiplied by 100. So that becomes the canopy cover, right? So canopy cover means we can say canopy cover is equal to, right? Let me write it here. Canopy cover is equal to, right? We will write here the area total area covered by canopies, right? And then there is a divided by the total land area, divided by the total land area, and multiply by 100. This is what we mean by the canopy cover, right? Multiply by 100. This is the canopy cover, whether it is 10% or more, right? So this is one definition which has been given by the United Nations Food and Agriculture. There are three important points. One is the land cover, second important point is the tree height, and third important point is the canopy cover, which is important here, right? Now the next definition of forest, right? So that is given by the UNFCCC, right? United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, right? So according to this UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, right? So according to this, we can say forest is an area, right? Forest is an area, of land between 0.05 to 1 hectare, right? 1 hectare of minimum area of land, minimum of area of land, right? Hectares in size, right? Of which more than 10% to 30%, right, is covered by tree canopy, is covered by tree canopy. This is the second point, right? Tree canopy. And trees must also have the potential of reaching a minimum height of 2 to 5 meters, right? Height of 2 to 5 meters, right? So this is the definition of the forest given by the UNFCCC, right? So according to this definition also, there are three important factors we can say, right? One important point, that is the area, same thing, right? Area means land cover, which is given, you can say more than 0.05 to 1 hectare of land, right? Hectare of land. And the second is the canopy, right? As far as the canopy is concerned, it is more than 10% uh, to 30%, right? And then there is the height of trees, right? As far as the height of trees is concerned, it is more than, you can say, 2 meters to 5 meters, right? To 5 meters means this is the, you can say, definition given by the UNFCCC, right? So these are the two definitions which we have discussed. One is the definition given by the, you can say, UNFAO, and second is the UNFCCC. I think you may have any question related with this regarding the definition. If any of the students has any question, you can please type your question in the chat box, right? And I will check it and I will reply, right? So please tell me if anybody has any doubt related with this. Okay, so no, okay. Mr. Amrit, any doubt? And Shaila, any doubt? Asika, any doubt? Please tell me if you people have any doubt, right? Aman, any doubt, beta? Okay, okay. So, beta, I think you must have doubt related with this, right? So the doubt is that, right? So the your doubt should be, and I think it is still your doubt. Why this range 0.05 to 1? Why 10% to 30%? Right? What is the cutoff? Should we assume it 10% or 30%, or it is for the different types of trees? What is there, right? Why this height variation, right? So why not one specific figure is given here, right? So beta, this is the particular point, right, which you should note and which, right, and about which you should have raised the question here, right? Is it not a question? Hello, are you clear about this? That why this range of area, why canopy 10% to 30%, right? Should we take it 10%, 12%, 25%, or what? Is it clear to you, or you have any doubt related with this? Tell me, tell me. Okay, you don't have any doubt. Okay, okay. Good if you don't have any doubt, but let me tell you, right, from my end, that that you can say the countries, right, countries participating in UNFCCC, right, can choose, right, can choose, you can say, right, any figure between this range, to define forest in their country, right, to define forest in their countries, right, in their countries. Okay, so this is the main purpose, right? So, right, so they have specified a range that let it be this range, right, between this to this, right, and the countries which are the members, they can decide, right, whether the minimum area, uh, right, they choose is 0.05 hectare or 1 hectare or 0.8 hectare, whatever it is. And similarly, the canopy cover, whether it is 10%, 20%, 30%, what they like to choose. And similarly, the height of the trees, right? So whatever they like to choose, right? So they can do that. Okay. So that is basically there, right? So I think this is clear to you. Shala, it is clear, Beta? So if still doubt, please, you can ask again, right? So I will explain it again. Okay. Yes. Okay, Beta. Thank you. So now the next thing is that because we have discussed about that forest, right? That what is the forest, right? And right. Uh, yes, beta, basically these are the two criteria, right? Beta, for the purpose of the UNFCCC, right? So whatever the programs of the UNFCCC are there, according to that, right? The countries, or you can say for participating in those programs or for taking the benefits of those programs, right? The countries have to adopt the UNFCCC definition, right? And for other purposes, they can adopt the UNFAO's definition, right? So it is like that. Okay. So now the next important thing is that now the next important is that forest does not include, right? Forest does not include, but is not included in the forest. Number one, land that is predominantly under agriculture, right? That is predominantly under agriculture, right? So please bear these things in mind because छोटे छोटे questions ऐसे यूपीएससी कई बार पूछती है, right? Under agriculture or the land which is under the or the land which is predominantly under the, we can say, urban use, right? Under the urban use, right? So these are the two things, right? Which the forest does not include here. Okay. So this is the meaning of the forest, and I hope the definition of the forest is clear to everybody now, right? So now I am moving on to the next, you can say, part of the discussion. That is a forest account for, right? Forest account for. So what is there? Forest account for. Number one, I can say 75%, 75% of gross primary productivity, gross primary productivity, productivity of Earth's biosphere, right? Of Earth's biosphere, we can say. One is this. And the second important point here is that 80% of Earth's plant biomass, right? Plant biomass. So these are the two important points here. Right? So we can say that forests account for 75% of gross primary productivity, right? So one thing is that we should be clear about the meaning of the gross primary productivity. What is the meaning of gross primary productivity, right? So this point is important. So gross primary productivity, you know that there is one concept of the primary production, right? So what is the primary production? Primary production is that which is done by the, right? The production which is done by, which is done by the autotrophs, right? By the autotrophs, right? So autotrophs are those organisms, right? That autotrophs are those organisms that, right, are those organisms that make their food themselves, that make their food themselves, right? So there are two types of autotrophs. We have already discussed about that. One type of autotroph is the photoautotrophs, right? And second is the chemoautotrophs, right? One is the photoautotrophs, right? So those organisms, right, who do the photosynthesis, right, to make their food, right? And second is the chemoautotrophs, right? So those organisms, right, who cannot do the photosynthesis because of the unavailability of the sunlight or some other reason, right? So they make their food by the chemical reactions, right? So those are the chemoautotrophs, right? So that means the total production done by the autotrophs, that is the gross primary productivity, right? So GPP is what? It is the total production done by the autotrophs, right? Total production done by the autotrophs, right? Autotrophs. So that is known as the GPP, gross primary productivity, right? And you must be knowing that GPP minus the you can say energy consumed in, right, or the production consumed in respiration, right, in respiration. Okay, so that becomes what? that becomes the net primary productivity, right? So it means GPP, total production, right? And NPP, GPP minus energy consumed in the respiration, that becomes the net primary productivity. I hope now the concept is clear to you that what do we mean by the gross primary productivity, right? So 75% of gross primary productivity of Earth's biosphere, right, is done by the forests only. And 80% of the Earth's plant biomass, right, they account for, that means the forests account for this also, right? And the next thing is that, right, if anybody has any doubt, you can ask anytime, please, okay? There is no restriction on doubt, on raising your doubt, right? So now we can say, based on the canopy cover, based on the canopy cover, right? There are three types of forest, right? There are three types of forest based on canopy cover, right? So the one type of forest, we can say that is the very dense forest. One type is known as the very dense forest, right? And the second type of the forest, that is known as the moderately dense forest, right? That is the moderately dense forest, right? And the third type of forest which is there, so that is the open forest, we can say. The third type of forest is the open forest, right? So very dense forest is that forest, right, where the canopy cover is, we can say, of 70% and above, right? So that is the very dense forest, right? And as far as the moderately dense forest is concerned, moderately dense forest is a forest where the canopy cover is between 40% and 70%. So that is known as the moderately dense forest, right? And next is open forest. As far as the open forest is concerned, it is that where the canopy cover is between 10% and 40%, right? 10% and 40%, right? So now this is the point, right? So please note it that let's suppose UPSC asks a question, right? Consider the following statements. Let's suppose this question is asked to you. Consider the following statements, right? One statement is is a very dense forests are those, very dense forests are those where the canopy cover is more than 70%, is more than 70%. And the second statement is that, right, a forest is said to be, a forest is said to be an open forest if the canopy cover is less than 40%, is less than 40%, right? So now, which of the above statements are correct? Which of the above statements are correct? Are correct, right? So first choice is given one only. Second choice is given two only. Third choice is given both one and two, right? And the fourth choice here is that is neither one nor two. Okay, neither one nor two. So what is your answer in this case? Please tell me. What's your answer? Yes, please. Try to reply fast, please. Try to reply fast, please. Okay. So A answer, one only. Okay. Yes, anybody else, please? Hmm. Okay, nobody else is uh, ready to answer. Okay. Yes, Shala, one only is correct because in the second it is given less than 40. Less than 40 means it may be 0% to 40% you can say, right? But less than 10%, we don't consider it a forest, right? So that is why this is the point which should be noted in this question, in this particular question, right? So that is why. Okay. So this is about the, you can say, types of the forest on the basis of the this cover of canopy, right? So the next thing is that factors determining the type of forest, right? So factors determining the type of forest, right? Type of forest vegetation or a type of forest we can say like that also, right? Forest vegetation. So what are the various factors that determine the type of the forest vegetation, right? So one is the latitude, right? One is the latitude, because with the change in the latitude, the solar radiation would also change, right? So climatic conditions change with that. So that is why vegetation may differ with that, right? And second is the altitude, right? With height, right? And third is the, we can say, temperature. That is another factor. And the next factor is the rainfall, right? It's amount and pattern of the rainfall. And the next is that is the soil condition and soil composition, we can say, right? So these are the various factors that you can say determine the type of vegetation in a forest, right? So now we can say that on the basis of the climate and the vegetation found there, right? There can be three types of forest, right? On the basis of climatic conditions, right? Climatic conditions and the vegetation found and the vegetation found, right? So there can be three types of forest, three types of forest, right? So one type of forest is known as the Tega forest, right? Tega forest. Second type of forest is known as the temperate forest, temperate forest, and the third type of forest is known as the tropical forest. These are the three types of forest we can say, right? And now we will discuss these three types of forest one by one. Okay. So, so the point is that now we are going to discuss the Tega forest. Right? That what do we mean by the Tega forest and what type of vegetation is found there and why it's so, right? So this is the point here basically, right? So one thing is that Taiga forest are known as the boreal forest or coniferous forest also, right? So Taiga forest are known as boreal forest, right? Please bear this in mind. Boreal forest and coniferous forest also. Okay, coniferous forest also. So this is one important point, right? So it means it is known by three names. The one name is the Taiga forest. Second name is the boreal forest, right? Boreal forest, right? And third name is the coniferous forest, right? Why these three names, right? So these three names are one thing is that coniferous because the type of vegetation is coniferous there, right? And why this name Taiga, right? Why this name Taiga? Yes, yes, you will get the slides also, and the lecture will also be posted on the YouTube. Okay, not an issue. Okay, so so as far as the Taiga is concerned, right? So Taiga basically is a Russian name for forest. Russian name for forest. Taiga is a Russian name for forest, right? And why boreal, right? Boreal, right? You can say in the northern part in the polar region, right? The north is right. North is referred to as boreal, right? North is referred to as boreal. So that is why these forests are known as the boreal forest as well as the Tega forest also, right? So now it is very much clearer that we can say that Tega forest, right, are located. So now the point is the location of the Tega forest, right? So as far as the location of the Tega forest is concerned, we can say that Taiga forests are located at the higher latitudes, right? Located at higher latitudes near polar region, right? Near polar region, right? If we talk about the exact location of this, right? So we can say that this is between the right 50-degree latitude, 50-degree latitude and the Arctic Circle, right? And Arctic Circle, right? So we can say that between 50-degree latitude and Arctic Circle, right? We find this, okay, as far as the location is concerned. So these are the two important points related with the location here. Okay, so please bear this in mind. Remember this between 50-degree latitude and the Arctic Circle, right? We find this, right? So now the next important point is that a type of vegetation, right? So what type of vegetation is found there, sorry. What type of vegetation is found there? As far as the type of vegetation is concerned, there are, you can say, needle-leaved plants, right? Needle-leaved plants. So why needle-leaved plants? I will tell you just now, right? Just after finishing this tagger, right? I will tell you. Needle-leaved plants, and second is the, you can say, drought-tolerant plants. Drought-tolerant plants. And the third point is that is the evergreen trees, right? So one is that needle-leaved trees. Let me write here trees, right? Trees, and drought-tolerant trees are found there, and evergreen trees are found there. This is the three. These are the three important characteristics of the vegetation, right? So now about some other characteristics of the, you can say this Taiga forest. We can say that, right? So the next is the color, right? Color of leaves, right? So one thing is the color of leaves, right? So here one important point is that here the because let me tell you first one important thing, that in the Taiga region the precipitation is low, right? The precipitation is low, right? Between 40 to 100 centimeter annually. That is the precipitation there, right? 40 to 100 centimeter annually. That is the precipitation there, right? And most of the precipitation, right? Most of the precipitation occur in the form of snow, right? Occur in the form of snow, right? Occur in the form of snow. So this is one important point which should be noted here, which is required to be noted here, right? So it means there are the drought-like conditions, right, which are prevailing in this region of the Taiga forest, right? So that is why I have said here that drought-tolerant tolerant plants, right? So now the question is that needle-leaved trees, right? So I'm just telling you. And second is the, and one is the evergreen trees, right? So this is the point here, right? So now one thing is that evergreen. Why evergreen? Because they, right? They don't shed their leaves, right? They don't shed their leaves every fall, right? Every fall. Fall means autumn, right? Every autumn, right? Every autumn, you can say, so that they may absorb, right? Absorb maximum sunlight, right? Maximum sunlight as possible, right? So as much sunlight as possible, you can say, right? So that is why they don't shed their leaves every fall, right? So approximately after 3-4 years, they usually shed their leaves. That is why they are known as the evergreen forests, right? So, right, so you can say as much sunlight as possible. So this is the one point. I hope the point is clear to you that why the Tega forests are called the evergreen forest, right? So please note this point. This is a very important point, right? And the next point, which I told you that because because the reason is that above 50-degree latitude, right, the solar radiation received is very less, right? Solar radiation received is very less, right? Sun rays don't fall vertically in that region, right? Those are more slanting. So that is why per unit area, sunlight received is very less in that region, right? So therefore, right? So we can say therefore, they have to, right? Therefore, the plants have to do as much photosynthesis as they can, right? So that is an important point here, right? So now the color of leaves, right? So the color of leaves is dark green, right? Because the plants have been right adapted to the conditions, right? The leaves have a more chlorophyll, right? More chlorophyll, right? More chlorophyll, so that they may do, right? They may do the maximum photosynthesis, right? They may do the maximum photosynthesis within the shortest possible time, right? So that is the reason that why do the color of the leaves, right, is dark green there. Why is the color of leaves dark green there, right? So now the next point is that why do these Tega foresters have the needle-leaved, you can say, trees, right? So why needle-like leaf, right? Needle-like leaves. Why? What is the reason behind this, right? The one reason behind this is that needles, right, have a thick, needles have a thick, waxy, right, thick waxy coating, right, thick waxy coating that retains more water, right, that retains more water, right, that retains more water than a regular leaf or normal leaf, right, than a normal leaf. So one point is this, okay, so why the needle-like leaves are there. And the second important point is that since needles, right, we can say don't shed don't shed each fall, right, don't shed each fall, right, so they can capture more sunlight, right, they can capture more sunlight for nearly the entire year, right, for nearly the entire year, right, because there is the shortage of the sunlight, that is why. And the third point is that needles can survive, needles can survive, right? Can survive, we can say, snow and ice, right? So that is the next point. And the next point is there, needles have, right? Next point is there that needles have, have, you can say, lower wind resistance, right? Lower wind resistance. And that is why it does not, it does not make, it does not make a tree fall, fall, right? You can say fall over a storm, right? So this is the point here. The resistance is less, right? And the fifth point is that, right, needles are tough for insects to eat, right? Needles are tough for insects to eat, right? Insects to eat, right? So now the adaptation, right? If we see the adaptation, right? One point is that uh, retain more water, right? To retain more water because there are the drought-like conditions, water scarcity is there. This is the point, right? And second is needles don't shed each fall, they capture sunlight. This is the second point because there is the scarcity of the sunlight. Third is because there is snowfall is very common. And fourth is that because there the storms are common, right? Fast winds are very common. And that is why, right, in the wake of that, right, so if the leaves would be, you can say, resistant to the wind, so then in that case, right, the storms would uproot the, you can say, trees, and therefore the plants have adapted themselves to those conditions, right, like this. So this is the point there here, right? So the next is that, right, so Tega Forest, so the next characteristic we can say that Tega forests are, right, Tega forests are the forests of the region, right, the forests of the region where there is, right, where there is, we can say, a long winter, where there is long winter, right, where there is a long winter, we can say, and a short and cool summer, right? Short and cool summer is there. So this is the another characteristic of these forests, we can say, right, that these grow in those areas, right? And precipitation, I have already told you, between 40 and 100 degree, right? And the next important characteristic is that very thin layer of soil, right? Very thin layer of soil, right? There are two reasons that why the thin layer of soil is there, right? Number one is that trees don't don't shed their leaves, right? Leaves commonly, or every season, you can say, right? Or every fall, every fall, right? So that is why there is the, therefore, there is the shortage of the organic matter, right? So there is a shortage of organic matter, right? So with the decay of the organic matter, the soil is formed, right? So there is shortage of organic matter. One point is that, okay, shortage of organic matter. This is the one point. I think it is clear to you. And the second point is that due to cold conditions, right? Due to cold, dry conditions, right? The rate of decaying of the vegetation, that is very slow, right? The rate of decay of vegetation, right? Decay of vegetation is very slow, right? So that is why less soil is formed there. And this is the reason that the soil is very thin there. Layer of soil is very thin there, right? So less soil is formed. Okay. So this is the justification. Less soil is formed, and this is the reason that the layer of the soil remains very thin there in that point in that case. Okay, so this is there, right? And the next important point is that growing season remains very short, right? Growing season remains very short because most of the time there is the snowfall, right? Very cold conditions are there. Snowfall is there most of the time, right? So growing season is very short. That is only 3 months, right? So as compared to the other forest ecosystems, right? As compared to the temperate forest or as compared to the tropical forest, the growing season is very restricted. Here is very, you can say, small here. Okay, so this is the point here, right? And the next thing is that, right, the plants grow. The next thing is that the plants grow in close canopy, right? In close canopy, right? So that they may soak, or we can say absorb, right? Or absorb, right? Maximum sunlight, right? So that they may absorb maximum sunlight. So this is very important point here again, right? So the plants grow in close canopy, thick canopy you will see there, right? So that is the point here, right? And the important trees of the region are cedar, spruce, right? And right, so important trees include cedar, right, spruce, right, and pine there, and fir trees are also there, right? So these are the trees which are usually found there, right? And one more important characteristic is there that the trees grow in cone shape, right? Trees grow in cone shape, right? Means conical trees are there, right? Cone shape means the shape of the trees is like this, right? Let's suppose this is the main stem of the tree, right? And the branches of the tree, right, would be like this, right? Like this. The branches of the tree would be like this, right? Like this. So why? Because, right, whenever the snow falls, right, the snow does not stop over the branches of the tree, right? It slides off immediately, right? So that is why the trees need not to bear the burden of that snow, right? So instead of the branches like this in this form, the branches are in this form, right? So that the snow may not stop over there, right? So when the snow falls there, right, it slides off immediately. So this is the reason that why the Tega trees are in conic shape, right? So this is all about the Tega forest. I hope this is clear to you. If any student has any doubt about the Tega forest, you can raise your doubt, please, right? So the next is the temperate forest, right? Now I am moving on to the temperate forest, right? Temperate forest, right? So temperate forest, it is very much clear. It is the forest of the temperate region, right? It is the forest of a temperate region, right? Temperate region, right? Usually we can say between 25 degree, right? Between 25 degree and 50 degree latitudes in both northern and southern hemispheres, right? In both northern and southern hemispheres. So this is the point, right? So please note it that Taiga forests are usually not found in the southern hemisphere because there is no land, right, in that region, right? So there is mainly ocean water bodies are there in that region. That is why Taiga forests are usually not found in the southern hemisphere. They are dominating in the northern hemisphere mainly, right? And the temperate forests are found in both northern as well as the southern hemisphere, right? So that is there. Okay. So because these are found between the boreal forests and the tropical forests, right? Found between the boreal forest, okay, boreal forest and the tropical forest. So that is important. Boreal forest and the tropical forest, right? So it's sort of the transition between the boreal and the tropical. There is the temperate forest, we can say, right? So that is why. And the next point is that they are called the four season forest, right? So they are called four season forest also, right? Four season forest also. Why? Because in that region, because in that region, right, there is clear, right? There is clear, right? We can say distinct seasons, right? There is clear, distinct seasons, right, which are noticed there, right? Clear, distinct seasons are noticed there, right? So now in this region, right, clear, distinct four seasons means one is the, you can say, spring season, right? Spring season. One is the spring season. Second season is, that is the summer season. Third is the autumn season, and fourth is the winter season, right? Summer, autumn means fall, and winter season, right? So clear, four seasons are there, right? So autumn season, and the next is, that is the, you can say, winter season is there, right? Winter season. So these are the four clear seasons which are found over there in those areas, right? So the next thing is that, right? So in this area, there are mild winters, right? So in this region, there are mild winters, right? There are mild winters, right? We can say, and moderate rainfall, right? Moderate rainfall. Rainfall is also sufficient, means moderate rainfall is there. Winters are, we can say, mild there, right? And the trees in this region are, right? The trees in temperate region are, we can say, the mix of, are the mix of, right? Mix of what we can say, right? Mix of one is the, we can say, deciduous trees, right? One is the deciduous, right? Deciduous trees are there. One is that which are found there, okay. And the second thing is that there can be the broad-leaved, right? Broad-leaved evergreen trees are there, right? So that is the broad-leaved trees are there. Broadleaf trees are there, right? Broadleaf evergreen trees, we can write it, right? And third is, we can say, that is the coniferous, right? Coniferous evergreen trees, coniferous evergreen trees, right? Coniferous evergreen trees, right? So the coniferous evergreen trees are known as the, right, sclerophyllus also, Sclerophy, right, double Lus, right? So these are known as the sclerophyllus, right? Trees also, okay, sclerophyllus trees also. So it means, if we see that broadly, in the temperate region, there are two types of trees. One is the deciduous, and second is the evergreen trees, right? So there's deciduous trees are those trees which shed off their leaves seasonally, right? Deciduous trees are those trees which shed off their leaves seasonally, right? And second is the evergreen trees, right? Evergreen trees, right, are those trees which though shed their leaves, right, but the new leaves also you can say emerge, right, in parallel. So that is why all the time, right, you will see them green, right, as if they don't shed their leaves, but actually yes, they shed their leaves, right, but the new leaves, right, emerge in parallel. So that is why they always look evergreen, right? So and then in the evergreen there are further the two types, right? One is the broadleaf and second is the coniferous, right? So this is the good, you can say, better classification if we do it like this, right? So coniferous. Okay, so this is the better classification of this, you can say, right? So the next thing is that, right? So this is there, right? So deciduous trees, evergreen trees. So in the areas, right, where the winter is very severe and freezing winter, right? So in those areas, you will find the deciduous trees, right? In areas where winter is very severe, right? Very severe and freezing, right? And freezing, there you will find the deciduous trees, right? And in areas where the winter is mild, there you may find the evergreen trees also, right? Evergreen trees also. Okay, so that is there, right? So in this, what is there, right? So as far as the deciduous trees are concerned, we can say there are two, three important conditions. Number one, moist and warm winters, right? Moist and warm winters. One condition is that, and second is the we can say that frosty winters, right? So these are the two conditions for the deciduous trees, right? So that is why those trees shed off their leaves in the winter season, right? So these are mainly found in the deciduous trees are mainly found in, we can say, Northern America, right? These are mainly found in Northern America, right? Northern America, then Western Europe, and Eastern Asia, Western Europe and Eastern Asia, right? So these are the important regions where these trees are found, right? Deciduous trees are found in these areas, right? And then the evergreen forests, right, are found in areas, right? Evergreen forests are mainly found in areas, right, where the winters are mild and frost-free winters, right? Mild and frost-free winters, right? So in those areas, you will find the evergreen forests, right? So as far as the broad-leaved evergreen forests are concerned, right? So broad-leaved evergreen forests are mainly found in New Zealand, right? So these are found in New Zealand, we can say, all right, South China, okay, Korea, Japan, right? South China, Korea, Japan. Then there is the Eastern Australia also, right? And the Southern America also, right? And Southern America also, right? So these are the areas where these type of forests are found, right? Yes, Peter. Sclerophyllus trees are those trees which are the coniferous trees, right? Which are coniferous trees, right? And these are found mainly in the, you can say, Asia, in the that you can say Australia, right? These are mainly found in Australia and Mediterranean region, right? Australia and Mediterranean region, right? So in those areas where the, you can say, rain is comparatively less, right? In Mediterranean region, right? Mediterranean region, we can say, right? So that is the point here, right? In Mediterranean region. Okay. So this is the point where this is, we can say, found. Okay. So, right. Yes, yes. Two conditions for the deciduous trees: moist, warm winter, and warm, sorry, summer, and frosty winter. Right. Here it is summer, please. गलती होगी लिखने में. Moist, warm summer, and frosty winter. The two conditions for the deciduous trees are those. Okay. So, right. So I think this is clear to you up to this point, right? So now as far as we can say, right, the sclerophyllous trees are concerned, right? So these sclerophyllous trees do have, right, you can say, small leaves, right, small leaves. Why? To prevent the water loss, right? Because जितना कम surface area होगा, उतना water loss कम होगा, right? So that is why, right, उतना जो है transpiration कम होगी, right, evaporation कम होगी. So one is that small leaves, right, and second is the thick leaves, right, thick leaves, so that they may store more water, right, to store more water, right. uh, and then there is the hard leaves, right, hard leaves, so that they may not be injured very frequently for the water loss, right. So hard leaves also. So this is the reason that right. So this is about the sclerophyllous trees, right? So I have told you that the temperate region forests are right. Two types of forests: deciduous and the evergreen. Right, two types of forests mainly. Deciduous are those which shed off their leaves seasonally. Right, there are two important conditions for this. One is the moist and warm summer, and second is the frosty winter. Right, second is the evergreen forests. Right, evergreen forests are those those which you can say are or which prevail in the climate conditions of mild frost-free winters. Right, there are two types of the evergreen trees: broad-leaved and the coniferous. As far as the broad-leaved is concerned, they are found in the New Zealand, South China, Korea, Japan, East Australia, and South America, because here there is no scarcity of water, right? So if the water scarcity is not there, the leaves become, you can say, broader, because there is no harm, you can say, right? Because there is no danger, or no, we can say, risk of that is the moisture loss, right? Because the moisture is already sufficient there, right? So this is the reason. And coniferous forests, right, which are called the we can say, right, sclerophyllous trees also. They are small leaves. They have small leaves, thick leaves, and hard leaves, right? So that is there. These are found in Mediterranean region and in the Australia, right? So this is the point here, right? So this is all about the temperate forest. I think this is clear to everybody. No doubt to anybody, I hope, right? Is it okay? Please tell me so that I may move further. Please tell me if it is okay. Okay, beta. Okay, right. So now the next point is that that is the tropical forests, right? Tropical forests. So now, as far as the tropical forests are concerned, tropical forests are found. Okay, beta, good. Tropical forests are found in the region around the equator, means between the tropics, right? Are found in regions between the tropics, right? Between the tropics, that is around the equator, right? Around the equator, right? So these trees are mainly found in the region, right, between, you can say, let us take here. So this is the equator, and here is, let's suppose, the Tropic of Cancer, and here is the Arctic Circle, you can say. Okay, and here is the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, and this is the, we can say that that circle, which is the Antarctic Circle, right? So these are the regions, right? So it means uh, in in this entire area, right, you will find the tropical forests in this entire region, in both the hemispheres, right? You will find the tropical forests, between means 25-degree north to 25-degree south, right? So you will find the tropical forests, right? And now, as far as this is concerned, you will find it between this region only, right? That is about 25 to 50-degree north, right? This region, 25 to 50-degree north. This is there, right? And this is there. And similarly, in this region, between 25 to 50-degree north region, you will find the temperate forests, right? And as far as the other point is concerned, which is the, we can say that the Tega Forest, right? So Tega Forest will be found in this region here, right? This is the region of the Tega Forest, as we can say, right? So here you will find the Tega Forests, right? So this is the main point, right? So Tega forests are usually not found in this region. So that is why, let me cut this, okay? So this is there, okay? So it means these are found, right, between 25-degree north and 25-degree south latitude, right? North and 25-degree south latitude, these are found there, okay? So this is the point here, right? So these are found there, right? So now the next important thing is that these forests occur mainly in, right? Next is these forests occur in the low-lying areas, right? Not at the high altitudes, right? Occur in low-lying areas, not in the high altitude or low altitude zones, right? Low-lying areas you can write here, or you can write here low altitude zones, right? It is found there in low altitude zones, we can say like that, right? So they are mostly evergreen, right? They are mostly evergreen, right? Mostly evergreen, okay? Mostly evergreen, you can say, and moist forests, right? And moist forests, evergreen and moist forests, right? But in some areas, there you will find the deciduous as well as the semi-evergreen also, right? But in some areas, right, there are deciduous and semi-evergreen also, right? And semi-evergreen also, right? So it all depends on the nature of the rain and the quantum of the rainfall, right? So that is basically there, right? So these forests are characterized by the high rainfall, right? These forests are characterized by high rainfall, which is, you can say, on average, right, exceeds, we can say, 200 centimeter, right? 200 centimeter, right, per annum. So that is there, right? And the next thing is that on in high average temperature regions, these are found, right? High average temperature regions, right? temperature regions, right? So average temperature between 20 and 25 degrees Celsius, right? So that is the temperature which is found in this region where these are found, right? 20 and 25 Celsius, right? So now here one you can say very important point is there, right? A very important point is that because these are around the equator, so there are two important things, right? Number one, in this zone, there is abundance of sunlight, right? Abundance of sunlight because sun, the apparent movement of the sun remains between these two tropics, right? So I think you must remember this or you must know this, right? Apparent movement of the sun remains between these two tropics only, right? So on 21st March approximately, the sun is on the equator, right? So on 21st March approximately, the sun is on the equator. And from here, the sun moves in the northern hemisphere towards the Tropic of Cancer, right? The sun reaches at the Tropic of Cancer approximately on 21st June, right? And from here, it returns back, right? And then you can say approximately on 22nd September, the sun reaches here on the equator again, right? And then it enters into the southern hemisphere, right? And by 22nd December, the sun reaches here on the Tropic of Capricorn, right? And from here again it returns back, and again in the month of March, 21st March, it is here. Again it rises upward, again down. So this is the apparent movement of the sun. So that means the region around the equator receives the maximum sunlight, right, during the whole year, right? So one point is that. And the second important point here is that the second important point here is that there is the phenomena of convectional rainfall, right? Convectional rainfall, right, occurs here. Means sufficient rainfall, right? Abundance rainfall is also in, you can say, abundance here. Why? Because you can say in this region the sunlight received is, you can say, more, right? So if there is more sunlight, there will be more temperature, more heat, right? So if the temperature is more, so then what is there, right? So the, we can say, air in this region, right, would, we can say, expand, right? Expand vertically as well, right? So that means the air would rise upwards, right, at this point, right, when it becomes lighter, right? So when air rises upward, so then what happens, right? It carries the moisture from the water bodies on the ground, right? And as it rises upward, right, it loses the temperature adiabatic process that is known as, right? It loses the temperature, it becomes cold, right? So when it becomes a cold, you can say, right? So then the condensation take place, cloud formation is there, and with the cloud formation, the rainfall happens there. So that is why the regions around the equator, mostly 10 degree, you can say north and south of the equator, there you will find almost every day rainfall happens in the afternoon, right? Because by the 2 p.m., the you can say the temperature is maximum on the earth, right? So by 2 p.m., the maximum air would rise upward, right, carrying the moisture, and then slowly, right, it starts becoming cold, and condensation takes place, clouds form, and the rainfall occurs. So that is why in every afternoon, the countries like Malaysia, Singapore, some part of Indonesia, right? So there you will find the rainfall, right, almost daily, right? So that is why in this region, there is no scarcity of the water also, right? So the two important things are required. One is the sunlight for the photosynthesis. Second is water is also required for the photosynthesis to the plants. And both are available here in sufficient quantities. That is why here the maximum photosynthesis takes place, right? If the maximum photosynthesis takes place, then we can say tree growth here will be maximum, right? Tree growth here will be maximum. And one more thing, because the sunlight and water is you can say quite insufficient amount here, so that is why the density of the plant is also very high in this region, right? The density of the plant is also very high in this region. The plants grow right very close to each other, right? So this is the that is right, almost continuous canopy would be found in this area, right? So density of the plant is very much high. Because the density of the plant is very much high, that is why the canopy of the plants, right? So canopy of the trees don't, you can say, expand right over a wider area, because there is no place for the canopy to expand over a wider area. And the second thing is that the trees grow right up to maximum height. Why? Because there is competition in the trees for the photosynthesis, right? जो भी tree थोड़ा छोटा रह जाएगा, right? तो फिर उसको photosynthesis के लिए उसको sunlight नहीं मिलेगी. So that is why there is a there is competition among the trees, right? So that is why in competition that the, you can say, trees grows to the maximum height in this region. And one more thing, here sunlight is also in abundance and rainfall is also in you can say abundance, right? Water plus heat, both the things are required for the quality of the wood, right? So that is why the, you can say, right, the wood of trees in this region, that is very hard. So that is why, right, lumbering is very difficult in this region, right? So in this region you will find the hardwood trees as well because of this characteristic, right? So you will find the hardwood trees as well in this region. Okay, so hardwood trees. So this is the reason, right? So these are the tropical forests, and I hope this is clear to you. So now I will move further, right? So any doubt up to this point of anybody? Any doubt up to this point? No doubt? Okay, good, good. So now I'm moving on to the next topic, right? So there are some other types of forests, right? We will discuss in very brief this other types of forest, right? As well as the other type of forest is concerned, right? So we will be, lumbering means cutting of the woods, right? Wood cutting profession, right? Occupation of wood cutting, cutting of trees, right? So that is the lumbering and logging, right? So uh, uh, let me tell you, one word is lumbering, okay, Bering, and the other word is, I can say, that is the logging, right? Logging, okay. So these are the two terms here. Right. Then wood would become hard, right? If the water and heat is in abundance, then the water, then the wood becomes hard, right? Right. Your question is quite a reasonable question. I'm just going to answer that lumbering should be maximum. I'm just going to answer this question. Okay, so these are the two things, right? So lumbering means felling of trees, right? Lumbering, felling of trees, right? Felling of trees. So this is lumbering, right? And logging is wood cutting, right? Cutting of the wood cutting, right? So basically, I'm now the question is that this is very genuine question which has been raised by Sheila, that if the quality of wood uh, is high, right? If quality of wood is better, right? Then why lumbering is not popular here, right? Is not popular here. So one thing is that this is one of the old concepts, right, which I am telling you. right? Old concept, why? Because uh, in the regions around the equator, the wood is very hard, right? Wood is very hard, and trees grow very dense, right? Trees grow very dense, right? So due to the hardwood, the cutting of the trees is very difficult, right? Due to the hardwood, the cutting of trees is very difficult. So one reason is this, right? And second reason, due to very dense forest, right? It is difficult to transport wood, right? To transport uh, right the woods, right? So these are the two reasons, right? Because there are no, because it is very difficult to develop the paths there, right? To develop the roads there or the passages there, right? To transport the goods, right? So one is right. So today, because it is a mechanical activity, right? Machines are there. So in these days, it is not much difficult, but in the you can say in the you can say old times, right? So it was very difficult for because the human activity, right, was mainly dominating, right, in all these things. So that is why it was very difficult for the men to cut the trees, right, and to make the roads or the paths, right, for the transportation of the woods from the interior of the forests. So that is why the lumbering activity was very slow here, very low here. Right? So this is the reason. Okay. So now the other type of forest, we are coming on that. So as far as the other type of forest is concerned, there are three other types of forest. One is the primary forest, right? These are other categories we can say. Second is the secondary forest. Secondary forest, right? And the third category is the, we can say, degraded forest. These are the three categories of the forest. Now we will discuss these three categories one by one, right? This is only one or two lines, right? Will be sufficient for this to discuss, right? So as far as the primary forest is concerned, right? Primary forest, right? Primary forests are those forests that have never been logged, right? जिनके साथ अभी तक कोई छेड़छाड़ नहीं की गई by the human, right? Forests that have never been logged, right? And one thing is that, right? And the second point is that right? Second point is that which have developed under the natural processes, right? Have developed under the natural processes, right? Under the natural processes. This is the second thing, right? And these forests, and these are those forests which exist in their original condition, right? Exist in their original condition, right? So these are known as the primary forest. Okay, so I think this is clear to you. And the second thing is that is the, we can say, secondary forest, right? Secondary forest. So as far as the secondary forest is concerned, right? Secondary forest is one that has been logged and regrown, right? Forest that has been logged once, right? Logged once, right? जिनको काट लिया गया है. One point is that, right? And after logging, that has recovered, you can say, that have recovered naturally or artificially, right? That has recovered naturally or artificially, okay, or artificially. So that is the secondary forest, we can say, right, or artificial, right? So this is basically there, right? So disturbed by the, you can say, human causes or other. So this is about the secondary forest, right, which are not in their original condition today, right? So the next is that is the degraded forest, right? Next is the degraded forest, right? So as far as the degraded forest is concerned, right? Degraded forest is a forest that has, you can say, lost through the human activities, right? Forest that has lost through the human activities, right? Through the human activities. So one point is that, okay, through the human activities, right? So so that is why the productivity of this forest would be low, right? That is why the low productivity of this forest will be there, right? So it would be able to, you can say, deliver reduced supply of goods and services, right? And it would be having only limited biodiversity, right? Because it is degraded, right? It would be having only limited biodiversity. Okay, limited biodiversity would be there. Limited biodiversity, right? So now the there are three parameters to identify a degraded forest, right? So now I'm moving on to the next slide, right? There are three parameters, right, to identify degraded forest, right? So what are the three parameters that are there? One parameter is a reduction in canopy cover, reduction in canopy cover, right? Or trees per unit area, trees per unit area. One point is that, and the second point is a reduction in biological diversity, right? Reduction in biological diversity. And the third is that reduction in soil, right? Reduction in soil, right? In reduction in soil means there can be reduction in soil cover. One point is that there can be reduction in soil cover, right? There can be reduction in the depth of soil, right? Or there can be reduction in the fertility of soil. Okay, there can be reduction in the fertility of soil. Okay, so these are the three things related with the reduction in soil, right? So these are the three parameters on the basis of which we can see that whether right, whether a forest is a degraded forest is or not. Okay, so I think this point is clear to you. There must be no doubt related with this. So now I am moving on to the next subtopic. The next subtopic is that is the topic of the deforestation, right? Deforestation, right? So as far as the deforestation is concerned, deforestation means a permanent destruction of forests, right? Please bear this in mind. Permanent, okay, destruction of forests. One point is that, right, in order to make land available for other uses, for agricultural use or for industrial use or for urbanization, right? So that is there, right? So that means what is there, that change of land, right, from forest to non-forest, right, from forest to non-forest. Okay, so that is known as the deforestation. Okay, so now what is there? So this is we can say one more point we can say here, that it is a sort of a permanent removal of forests, as we have discussed earlier. Permanent removal of forests, right, and withdrawal of land from forest, right? Withdrawal of land under forest, right? Land under forest, right? It may be a deliberate action, right? It may be a deliberate action, means deliberately, or it may be a need of the circumstances, right? We can say it may be circumstantially, right? Circumstantially. So any reason may be there, right? So permanent removal of forest and withdrawal of the land under forest, that is called the deforestation, right? So now UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, right, has tried to clear the concept of deforestation, right? So according to that, deforestation is defined, right? Deforestation is defined as the direct, right? As the direct, we can say, human induced, right? As the direct human induced conversion of forest, right? Conversion of forest to non-forest land, right? To non-forest land. So this is what the UNFCCC has said, right? But there are some other definitions which don't differentiate between the human-induced loss of the forest or the natural or the nature-induced loss of forest, right? So deforestation means deforestation, right? So it may be human induced or it may be induced by the nature also. Okay, so basically this is there. Okay, so but the main thing is that that the permanent loss of, we can say, this thing, right? So forest, right? So this is about the deforestation. Now the next important thing is that is the causes of deforestation, right? As far as the causes of deforestation is concerned, there are two, three important causes, right? So one is the agriculture, right? Because the population is growing, right? And to meet the needs of, right? To meet the food requirements of the growing population, right? So more and more land is brought under the agriculture for the food production mainly, right? So that is the one of the reasons, right? Brought under agriculture. Okay, so this is one of the reasons, right? So one of the reasons, right? And this is one point, right? And according to UNFCCC, right? According to the UNFCCC, right? About 48, you can say, subsistence farming, right? Subsistence farming is responsible for 48% of deforestation, right? So it means subsistence farming is one of the biggest reasons behind the deforestation, right? Subsistence farming is farming just to survive, right? Means in subsistence farming, right, the farmer grows only the, you can say, crops, right, for his family consumption, right? In this, right, the person grows crops only for the family use, right? Family use, not for commercial purpose, right? Not for commercial purpose, right? So this is the main point, right? So because there is poverty, right? Population is very high. That is why the land holding is very low and people do the subsistence farming. And that is one reason behind the deforestation, right? People don't tolerate the trees or other things in their on their land, etc. So this is the main point, right? So this is there. And the second thing is that you can say the second thing is that right, more commercial use of the wood, right? More commercial uh, use of wood, right? because the demand for paper is ever increasing, right? So due to a huge demand for the paper, right? Demand for paper, right, is very high, right? And therefore, more and more trees are cut. More and more trees are cut, right? So this is another point, right? And another point, you can say fast industrialization, urbanization. These are the other main points, right? Fast urbanization and industrialization, right? Industrialization. These are the other points we can say, right? Behind which are responsible for the this you can say forest loss, right? Forest loss. So now the next thing is that that is the effect of deforestation. This is very much important topic, effect of deforestation, right? So as far as the effect of deforestation is concerned, the first effect of deforestation, right? We can say that, right? One is the negative impact on environment. One is that, right? Negative impact on environment, right? In two ways. Number one, it leads to more global warming, right? Why? Because the trees are known as the carbon sinks, right? Because trees are known as carbon sinks, right? Carbon sinks means they absorb carbon dioxide, right? They absorb more carbon dioxide, right? Carbon dioxide, right? So if there are no trees, right? So the amount of carbon dioxide in the absence of trees, right? Trees, the amount of carbon dioxide, right, in atmosphere would increase. Atmosphere would increase, right? And since carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, so the greenhouse effect would increase, and it will lead to global warming, right? It would lead to increase in temperature on the earth. So this is the one effect of this deforestation, right? Second effect of deforestation is on the rainfall, right? Rainfall. How it is on, it is, you can say how it affects the rainfall, because basically rainfall depends on the amount of moisture in the air, right? Amount of moisture in the air. And there are two sources of moisture in air, right? Two sources of moisture in air, right? One is, you can say, one is evaporation of water from open water bodies, right? One is that from open water bodies and soil, right? One is that, right? And the second is, you can say, loss of water into the atmosphere, into the atmosphere, right, by the plants. These are the two sources of water, right? So if this source, right, does not remain, so then what will be there? Then the total amount of moisture in air would reduce. If the total amount of moisture in air would reduce, then the that is the you can say relative humidity, right, would remain low. And if the relative humidity of air would remain low, then there will be no cloud formation. And if cloud formation does not take place, there will be no rain, or less rainfall would be there. So that is why one effect is that, right? So it affects this. Okay. So the next thing is that it may have bearing on the biodiversity. It may have bearing on the biodiversity, right? Loss of forest may have bearing on the biodiversity, right? Because today, according to an estimator, approximately 80% of the Earth's plant species and the species of animals are found in the forest ecosystem, right? So about 80% of plant species, right? Plant species and and species of animals are found in the forest, right? Are found in the forest, right? So now then what will happen? So if there is the forest loss, then obviously these species would not be having habitat for their survival, right? So these would also become threatened. Okay, so this is the point here, right? So the next thing is that there is you can say forest have a very important role, right, in the you can say pollination, right, in the pollination, right. So if the forests are cut, then the pollination would affect, right. If the pollination is affected, then obviously there will be the loss of productivity and all these things. Okay, so that is also there. And apart from that, forest have many other utilities also, like these provided timber also for the construction purpose, for the furniture making, right, and fuel wood also, right, and many other utilities of the forest are there. But the important points we have mentioned here in this thing, right. So now the next point is that there are two important terms here. One term is the we can say afforestation. Second is the reforestation. Right. One point is the afforestation, and second term is the reforestation. Right. Reforestation. Right. So afforestation means planting trees on a land which was not earlier under the forest. Right. Planting trees on a land which was not under forest earlier means न्यू लैंड के ऊपर ट्रीज प्लांट करनी, राइट. सो जो लैंड पहले फॉरेस्ट नहीं थी उसको हम कहते हैं मतलब यू कैन से अफॉरेस्टेशन, राइट. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू द Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, right? According to the IPCC, right, we can say that, right, we can say that you can say afforestation is planting of, right, afforestation is planting of, right, planting of new forests, new forests on land, right, on lands which historically, right, which historically have not contained forests, right, have not contained forests, right. So that is known as the afforestation, right, afforestation, right. And the next thing is that, right, the next thing is which is called the reforestation, right. Reforestation means planting trees again on the land which was already under forest, right. Planting trees again on the land which was under forest, right. So that is the reforestation, right. किसी जमीन से हमने पेड़ काट लिए और दोबारा फिर हमने वहाँ पेड़ लगा दिए. So that is reforestation, not the afforestation, right. So as far as you can say, as far as India is concerned, right, in India there is a you can say body, right, which was established in 1992 and which is responsible for the you can say afforestation activities. That is a national afforestation national afforestation and eco development board, right, and Eco Development Board, right? So this is the body, NAEB, right? So this is the body in India which was established in 1992 and which is responsible for, right, was established in 1992, right, and is responsible for afforestation in India, right, for afforestation in India. Okay, so it provides the financial assistance also to the NGOs and various other you can say organizations, right, voluntary agencies for the afforestation purpose, for you can say planting of the new trees, etc., etc., right. So this is about the afforestation and reforestation, right. So I think this is enough for today, right. Social forestry is pending, that we will discuss tomorrow, right. So if you have any doubt from today's lecture,